Sure. All right, shall we start then?
Yes.
It's 2
Yes,
o'clock.
we can. Yep.
Welcome everyone to the second session of the UB Research Essentials Series 4 for the 2021 to 2022 academic year. Thank you for joining today's session. I am Virginia Ballance, and I will be the moderator of today's session. This new 4th series of the Research Essentials is focusing on exploring trends and research opportunities in different faculties at UB. Today, we will explore research trends in business, hospitality, and tourism. Tourism and the financial sector, as you know, are the pillars of the Bahamian economy. Therefore, they offer many interesting lines and questions and topics for research. And we hope that today's session and discussion will pique the interest of graduate students, undergraduate students at the senior level interested in conducting further research. Today's session will focus, as I said, on business, hospitality, and tourism. The presenters are Dean Remelda Moxey, who is the Dean of the Business, Hospitality, and Tourism faculty, and Dean Nair from Graduate Studies and Research. The session will be followed by Dr. Antoinette Pinder-Darling, who is the Library Liaison for Tourism and Hospitality Studies. And finally, we will have a short Q&A session depending on the amount of time we have left. I would now like to hand the session over to Dean Moxey.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ballance. I'm going to begin this with a business definition of research, one that comes from MIT. MIT defines business research as the gathering of relevant information about all aspects of business, be it tourism, hospitality, culinary arts, in order to maximize organizational sales, profits, marketing, and economic performance. Business research is indeed an activity which helps companies determine what products are profitable to produce, provides data to assist governments in making macroeconomic decisions, and it also provides topics for business research students to consider in determining their careers. There are primarily 2 types of business research, and they are qualitative and quantitative. I'll firstly look at qualitative research. Qualitative research is a market research method which concentrates on gaining information through open-ended questions, participants or first-hand observations, and informal communication such as interviews, focus groups, case studies, questionnaires, recordings engaged in the natural environment. And the data is normally of a non-numerical nature. Whereas quantitative research involves collecting and analyzing numerical information. It is used to identify patterns, test hypotheses, identify correlations, etc. Quantitative research also utilizes computational and statistical techniques Data can be collected using polls, surveys, observations, questionnaires, and interviews. Let us take a look at some of the advantages of business research. Business research aids organizations in identifying business opportunities, organizational threats, and resolutions to those opportunities and threats. It also enables communications with customers and stakeholders. Business research assists organizations in determining the profitability of products. It provides data that informs governments in making macroeconomic decisions by providing the data that supports same. Business research also aids in identifying profitable and non-profitable areas of a business. It allows businesses to gather data relative to consumer satisfaction. It also assists in identifying areas where consumers may be better served, where customers may be better served. Business research can also aid in avoiding business failures. It helps businesses to increase their revenue market share and the value and distribution of their products. Business research can also aid in identifying and tracking organizational competitors. It enables organizations to remain current with markets, trends, inventions, and provide information so that the organization may remain futuristic. Another advantage is that business research can aid in the recruitment of qualified, competent staff and organizational leaders. It also provides data for organizations to be able to make informed decisions and to identify areas where costs are high and require reduction. It also allows organizations' decisions to be driven and supported by data rather than feelings. It provides topics for students who are engaged in research to enable them to contemplate and reflect upon prior to making career choices. Like everything else, there are also disadvantages. We must take a look at the disadvantages of business research. Engaging in business research can be extremely costly. It doesn't come without a price. The research may be based on assumptions rather than facts. If the population that is being used is biased or the sample size is too small, the results of the research may be incorrect or not reflective of the population. Another disadvantage is that business research can require an inordinate amount of time, and hence it can be time-consuming, and the level of active engagement could fall off, thereby resulting in incorrect data. As we know, business is dynamic. It's constantly changing. Therefore, the research which emanates can quickly become antediluvian, archaic, or non-relevant. There are also benefits of business research, and some of those benefits are: it enables contribution to new knowledge, contribution to the existing body of knowledge. It enhances faculty learning and bridges the gap between faculty learning and teaching, thereby resulting in more knowledgeable faculty. Another benefit of business research is that it garners new concepts outside of the classroom. And faculty are able to mentor their students in searching for new knowledge. Faculty and students working together, in the research environment can discover new knowledge simultaneously. They can present their findings locally, nationally, regionally, or internationally. They can also apply this new knowledge which they've gained to their discipline and transfer same to other faculty and students. Another benefit of business research is that it generates and publish new knowledge that may be advantageous to industry, to government, to teaching, to faculty, and to other researchers. Therefore, it's imperative that there is a vibrant research community who are actively engaged in research. Another benefit is that it facilitates faculty and students special interest learning with regards to specific topics or in specific areas. There are books that would aid in business research, and some of that, this list certainly is not exhaustive by any means, but some are. Business Research Methods by Emma Hill and Donald Cooper, Essentials of Business Research Methods by J.F. Heer, M. Page, and N. Brunsville, Planning Research in Hospitality and Tourism by Levent Altanay, Research Methods in Business Studies by Pervez Ghauri, Planning an Applied Research Project in Hospitality, Tourism, and Sports by Frederick Mayo. Business research tools. There are a multiplicity of business research tools, and I'm simply going to give you a few. The librarian will speak to you in greater detail. We have QuestBack, Clout, CAD, Google Analytics, Key Survey, Free Lunch, Google Trends, and Solve. Some of the current topics in business research are as follows. One, the influence of advertisement on a consumer behavior. Does incentives motivate or increase employee productivity and organizational morale? Managing crisis in a business. How to create a work-life balance in the organization. And as we know, the young people are all about work-life balance. Challenges faced by small business owners. How to expand a company globally. The impact of digital marketing on the success of a business. How to maintain the quality and quantity of products. Challenges faced by entrepreneurs of a new startup during the pandemic. How to create a budget and maintain companies' finances. How to sustain and regenerate a business post-COVID. The impact of the COVID pandemic on small and medium-sized businesses and the resultant impact. The impact of COVID through the entrepreneurial lenses. There are those who contend that the entrepreneurs, especially those who recently entered the market prior to COVID, were impacted more so than those companies that have been around for an inordinate length of time. There are also some research topics that are systemic to hospitality, tourism, and culinary arts that are currently being researched. And some of those research trends are promoting sustainable tourism development, travel and tourism revenue monitoring, creating synergies and partnerships across the culinary and tourism sectors, smart and innovative tourism development, advancing tourism's contributions to poverty reduction and development, improving tourism competitiveness in the Caribbean, tourism's contribution to promote the Bahamas' socioeconomic growth and development, tourism's contribution to global trade and economic growth worldwide, promoting employment through fostering knowledge, education, and capacity building. The hotel industry research, consumer or employee insights on travel and the COVID-19 pandemic. The impact of COVID on the hospitality and tourism sectors in the Bahamas, rebounding of restaurants post-COVID, protocols to ensure sustainable recovery of the hospitality and tourism sectors in the Caribbean region post-COVID, how home-based culinary businesses survived the COVID impact, insulating your business from COVID. Impact of COVID-19 on the Airbnb business. Those are just some of the trends in research which I have identified. The library has a multiplicity of resources that can assist us in engaging research in the various areas, some of which are EBSCO host, online public access catalog or OPAC, and of course, the going into details with respect to the other library resources would be our colleague, Dr. Pinda Darling. She will present after Dr. Nair. Dr. Nair,
Thank
I
you.
hand it to you.
Thank you, Dean Moxey, for quite a detailed presentation on the business side of it. So let me now share my screen. So okay, let me open the slides. Okay, I hope you're able to see my screen. All right, so if you look at Dean Moxey, have actually given you quite a detailed presentation on the business side. And you must understand when you talk about hospitality and tourism research, hospitality and tourism research is also a part of the same discipline, the business discipline. If you look at this table that on the screen here, the following table shows one version of the main academic discipline in some of their branches. And if you look at it, you don't see hospitality and tourism because hospitality and tourism is not regarded as a discipline. Okay, so so the phenomena known as tourism was formally discovered by social scientists in the early 1970s, and is now being studied from the perspective of multiplicity of disciplines. So this diagram basically shows you some of the main areas, and the hospitality and tourism is there. So it is part and parcel of the bigger business industry. So all the pointers that Dean Moxey spoke in terms of the advantage and disadvantage and the benefit of the business research applies even in the field of hospitality and tourism. So hospitality and tourism are two separate industries that often work in conjunction but can operate alone. Hospitality typically refers to hotels, motels, inns, restaurants. So people don't need to be at the same time, when you use the word hospitality, people don't need to be touring to use this product. Whereas tourism is sightseeing and visiting places of interest, and one can tour a location that is close to home, and therefore no need hotel or restaurant. So if you draw two circles with about third of each maybe overlapping the area covered by both tourism and hospitality. But because all tourism does not require hotels, and all hotel guests are not tourists, one could easily comprehend the notion that there are no subsets of each other, but independent industries. So typically hotel can be in a tourist destination area and therefore sees a higher percentage of its revenue coming from leisure tourists. On the other hand, a central business district location or airport location might lean towards a higher percentage of business travelers and people attending meetings. So if you look at this diagram here, it basically gives you the areas. So this is important for you to understand the overlaps and hence the research that takes place in this area. So the term travel, tourism, and hospitality are often twisted with each other. On one side, services ensured by the travel and hospitality industry are partly employed for tourism purposes. On the other side, there also exists non-tourist customers which uses the service of hospitality and travel industry. So if we want to be precise, we can isolate activities in the tourism industries by taking into consideration whether they serve the tourists as shown in this figure. So in research studies, we can identify several main research areas in the hospitality and tourism side. So if you look at the 5 areas commonly that a lot of research is taking place in this field: the hospitality and hotel management research, tourism management, tourism economics and financial management, convention and events management, hotel and tourism technology management. And all these are part and parcel of the bigger business discipline. So let's look at the first one, hospitality and hotel management. When you look at the hospitality and hotel management, there are 8 main areas that we normally look at in terms of research. The areas include, if you see here, customer satisfaction, marketing, management, quality management, consumer choice and service strategy, strategic management, marketing and service experience, and human resources. And if you look at all these terms here, they are also part and parcel of the business research. On the side of tourism management, then you have areas like cultural tourism, tourism education, tourism labor and employment, tourism planning and development, transportation and travel, tourist behavior and psychology. So these are the common areas that we see a lot of research that is taking place. And then for the third one here, tourism economics and financial management, a lot of focus is on the forecasting, okay, the demand forecasting, impact assessment, studies on competition issues in tourism, and then the areas of financial management for the hotel and tourism industry. All this becomes key for tourism economics and financial management research. And then of course, there's also the other part of the hospitality and tourism research, which is the convention and the event management research. A lot of focus on the management of the whole industry, including the service strategies and the education component, managing the destination, okay, in a particular location, convention tourism, and of course the MICE industry, the convention and exhibition management. So this become an important part of research as well. And then moving forward now, we have more and more studies are very much focused on the technology and innovation part, hotel and tourism technology management, and how technology can be used in the hospitality and tourism industry. So a lot more research that is taking place currently, and this paper that I put here that was recently published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, owing to the current pandemic that we are in. And you can actually see from this diagram what are the common subject areas even within the hospitality and tourism side, and how it is tied with the current pandemic and what kind of model and analysis that is being used. If you look at some of the model analysis, some of this was also mentioned by Dean Moxey earlier, because it is, as I've said, it is part and parcel of the business research. So the research aspects of the hospitality industry, which has been included over the last 2 years during the pandemic, you can see where the focus is. The bulk of the research is very much to focus on how the industry can recover, what are the market demand, how there are a lot of research that is talking about and analyzing the revenue losses by the industry, how is the COVID-19 spreading pattern and how it impacts the hospitality and tourism industry. Then there's also a lot of research, 10% of the research now is very much focused on job loss, how it impact the employment market within the industry, and then the safety and health protocols, issues with in regards to the hospitality workers. Travel behavior has become key part of a lot of hospitality and tourism research, and also the focus on the customers and the social cost. So this has been an important change that is taking place in hospitality and tourism research. So moving forward, there are a lot of more potential research that can actually come, that researchers can actually focus on, especially when you talk about the current complex systems and science framework that we are using to move forward. The simulation modeling that is taking place now, because you want to forecast what is going to happen to the industry and how the industry can actually bounce back. So there are a lot of new things that is happening. There's a lot of new subject area that is focused, responsible tourism and sustainable tourism, as what Dean Moxey mentioned as well, is becoming a key part of the new norm of tourism. And then of course all the other areas that you see on the slide here, the impact of the different policy, recovery of the industry in long term, the safety has become an important protocol, safety and health, how resilient, and the changes in terms of the market demand. There's also another important publication that was received recently, which I wanted to highlight here, where the focus was on the 10 important Caribbean tourism issues for 2022 and beyond, which I think a lot of researchers should actually be looking at. This include in the response to the global impact. So we know the impact and what is the response in terms of the hospitality and tourism industry, and how are we going to evolve into an industry that is more resilient. And then the focus research must be on economic contribution, especially in the Caribbean region. The transportation issue, okay, we talk about cruise tourism. So how is the cruise tourism being impacted, and how is the cruise tourism bouncing back? The long-term impacts of tourism industry when we talk about over tourism, because post-COVID, nobody wants to go to a destination that is going to be congested. So how do we manage that? Climate change and global warming, how is this related? Then the whole issue of safety, security, and health I mentioned to you earlier is also going to be key, moving 22 and beyond. Research on cooperation. How can the Caribbean work together to collaborate? It is no more competition, but it's more on collaboration. What sort of rules and restriction in terms of visas, in terms of now you have the health visas, how do you manage that when you do regional travel? Maintaining the capacity, how do you ensure the program that you deliver is going to be able to manage the future, the changes that is happening in the industry, and also the travel behavior, the impact, the effects on the travel in terms of whether the pandemic or the crisis that is taking place. It can even be the crisis in terms of the current hurricane crisis that we experience very regularly in the region. And then of course the whole issue of sustainable tourism has become more and more important post COVID-19. So and then of course there's also finally the last slide that I put here is showing the trends that was released by the hospitality school in Lausanne, Switzerland recently, on where the focus of research going to be in the next few years. Okay, so these are all things that we all have come used to in the new norm: staycation, digitalized guest experience. I'm not going to go in detail in the interest of time. Personalization becomes very key. How do you manage the economy now where it is very experiential? The management of the skills and asset management becomes key. Solo traveling becoming more and more popular. The travel approach of the millennials post-COVID is also has become an important research. Sustainability and responsibility is key. Using technology, introduction of virtual, how do you move from high tech to high tech? That has become key. Automation has become key. So these are all the most important research area that I see coming for the future. and also potential for students and faculty to focus on moving forward as we slowly come out of this pandemic. So with that, I will hand over my presentation back to Ms. Pinda Darling to give us a quick overview on the library support for this business, hospitality, and tourism that we have before we start doing some discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nair. And so we look at research in business and tourism studies, and we're going to look at it from 3 perspectives. We'll look at library resources, the business, tourism, culinary hospitality. Then we'll look at a number of databases that are available, and then what's new, what's coming up in those areas. Okay, so where can you look for resources related to books? Our university's online public access catalog. And most of you know how to find this, but I just wanted to give a little snapshot of the interface, just in case we had any new students in this presentation. Okay, so what is it that I really want people to notice in particular about our OPAC? And it is this theme tab called New Books. If you were to search for a subject area such as tourism, hospitality, or some aspect of business, it will show you books that were added to the library's catalog over the last month, over the last 2 months, over the last 4 months. And so you can keep up to date with what we're adding into our collection if you're certainly interested in making sure that you're doing research. And this should be something that's handy for new students to keep up with so that you always know what new materials are being added to the library. Now for OPAC, now for EBSCOhost. I'm not going to focus entirely on every interface, but we're going to be, for the sake of the presentation, we'll be looking at business searching interface. Okay, a tab that you did not see on the web interface is searching for publications in the library. You can browse by database. And as you can see, I'm not going to highlight every one, but if you were looking for publications on business and management, we have over 4,000 items. If you were looking for economics, about 1,200, health, over 5,000, nutrition, yes, 124 items, information technology, over 400 publications. And so as you can see, we have a wealth of information that you can search to encourage your research. Yes. And especially for faculty members, you can use this and integrate it into your curriculum. So students will have no excuse because you know yourself the publications that are available for their use. Okay, there's one database in particular I would like to draw your attention to, and that is the Business Source Ultimate. In previous years, the library always used the Business Source Complete, but we're discovering that since we switched over to the Business Source Ultimate, we are doubling the resources that students have access to. So in terms of active full text, journal articles, there are over 2,300. If we look at open access journals with no embargoes, there's over 800, so that's almost more than triple what students would have had access to in previous years. And then, of course, we have a lot of peer-reviewed, non-open access journals. And there's almost 1,400 of those that are available to faculty and students. So you now have more access in this post-COVID environment in which to do your research. Okay, I know that some persons want to know well, you know, we have all of these databases and journal articles, but what's specific to Latin America and the Caribbean? Well, in Business Source Ultimate, you have over 141 active journals related to Latin America and the Caribbean. And of course, that's more than double what you had with Business Source Complete. Now, in the library, we normally do analysis of our students as library liaisons. And this year, I did an analysis of how many students graduated from the culinary program over the last 4 years. So this analysis was from 2016 to 2020. And as you can see, the numbers have increased significantly with students that were enrolled in these programs. And so what I was concerned about was, did we have enough resources to cater to the needs of these students while they were enrolled, as well as the areas in which we had a lot of resources? And if you can tell from this slide, we had over 300 books related to cooking. And many of them are very up to date, meaning that we have books that were published within the last 2 to 3 years in our collection. We also have not just focusing on the cooking, but the professional chefs, wine books, ebooks that are related in the area. And as you can see for the students, I'm indicating the call number. So when you do your searches, you will know the areas that you should be looking for in terms of tourism and culinary related resources. I also did a breakdown. I'm looking at food policy and the food industry, breakfast and brunches, food science and technology, culinary arts and trends, as well as hospitality, restaurants, and menu pricing. And as you can see, hospitality seems to be the area where a lot of students have done a lot of searching or using interesting titles related to the topic. So our hospitality and cooking, culinary students have really been using the library resources. So kudos to those faculty members if they are present in this session. When I did an analysis of the searching that students did during the COVID lockdown, we had over 304 students searching for cooking related, and I'm hoping that it was related to their studies and not just the time that they were interested in spending in eating good food. But also when I look at culinary and hospitality, you know, it's about half the amount, okay? And that is a brief overview of the library resources that are available to students and faculty to aid in your research. And I will now turn it over for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Pinder-Darling and Dr. Nair and Dean Moxey. Let's open the floor for questions. I will lead off with a question for everybody. Do you think the university should focus on multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary research in business, hospitality, and tourism, because this sector cuts across so many disciplines?
Yeah, I think in my own view, yes. If as what I mentioned, especially when you talk about hospitality and tourism research, it is not it cuts across many disciplines, and normally the background of the researcher will determine the direction that he or she is taking in that particular research. So when you look at hospitality and tourism, you can study in different angles, coming from different angles, and looking at the industry, you need to understand a multiple discipline to solve a particular problem. So I think moving forward, you will see more and more research that is taking place currently is going to be cutting across. So even if you look at business research, it's going to be the same. You need to understand the science aspect, you need to understand the human dimensions, and then you need to put it together. Only then the research has value. But having said that, I'm not saying that if someone is really focused on a particular discipline, that study is not going to be valid. It is going to be still valid, but cutting across various discipline, transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary is the way forward for the studies in the future. So I think that is something that is going to be valid not just for business, hospitality, and tourism, but also across many other disciplines.
Thank you, Dr. Nair. I always found
Ellen?
it interesting that a lot of business research is actually more psychology based on consumer behavior or business behavior. So that's always comes as a surprise to me. Would you like to add something, Dean
Yes.
Moxey or Dr. Pinder-Darling?
Yes, Mrs. Ballance, thank you. I wanted to say that I am on the fence with that because there are some faculty members who really try to safeguard their discipline so that it remains dominant. And when we start to talk a little bit about a lot of the integration or the integrated disciplinary approach, some people take offense to it, but I do believe that there's merit because when we actually do the integrated disciplinary or cross-disciplinary research, you start to have an appreciation for other areas. And I say that specifically because when Dr. Kristen Welch wrote the water article, I was the person who initially pursued the research, but because that wasn't actively my area, I had to partner with someone whose specialty was in that particular, but I could do the research. I was very capable in doing so, but it was not my area of expertise. And so we had to collaborate and we were able to complete the research. So there are instances where it benefits, but there are also instances where people push back because they want their discipline to remain dominant. Mrs. Moxey, I don't know if you wanted to.
If you have a question, viewers, please raise your hand. I will endeavor to keep my eye on this, or just unmute yourself and speak up. I have another question, which bridges business and tourism. Oh, what are your thoughts about in the post-COVID world? Will the role of the travel agent come back again? Because now people are used to booking their own trips and so on. But do you think because it's going to become more difficult, travel agencies will have a resurgence in business?
I'm inclined to think so.
Yeah.
And because I think while individuals can book their own ticket online, I think when it comes to group travel, especially, and when it comes to having the knowledge with respect to the country that you're visiting and want to enjoy all the pleasantries of the country, I think that is where the travel agent, you cannot underestimate the contributions of the travel agent to your travel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there is a trend that is taking place currently, of course, in the current pandemic period, to ease your booking, to ease the protocols, and then there's a lot of cancellation happening. The tendency is you tend to go with the travel agent. But I think once things ease out, once everything comes back to normal, where the protocols are very clear, then I'm very sure it's going to go back to how it was, where there's more FITs, more independent travel bookings, and you're able to manage everything on your own now. But for the moment, yes, if you're doing a group booking, if there's too much of protocols and the probability of cancellation, you want insurance, it's always good. In my own experience, I normally book, whenever I do my traveling, I do everything on my own. But this time around, when I traveled back to my home country in Malaysia, I didn't want to take the chance of doing it on my own, because the probability of getting stranded somewhere because of some protocols or some cancellation is very high. And if you do it on your own, it can be very messy. So I had to go through a travel agent. So I can see why the travel agents, there's a surge in people using travel agents, but eventually I'm sure it is going to come back to normal, where you are able to handle everything once the protocols are very clear.
Thank you. Dr. Gal, you had a question. I saw your hand raised. Would you like to unmute yourself?
I was only going to put in a plug for the next session in 3 weeks, because you were talking before about the challenge of research collaboration across disciplines. And that's actually going to be the focus that Dr. Lindo and I will use. And we'll have actually, we're hoping for interaction and to show you a tool that I've used to bring out what those differences mean in doing research, the differences in how disciplines approach research and what they value in research. So that was part of my point. But I do have another question, and that kind of fits with Vic's question he posted there. How are you using students in your research in hospitality tourism studies that could help us sort of see a great way to engage the students with this work?
Well, I've put up when Dr. Pinda Darling presented, because I saw the numbers she put in was very much focused in hospitality and on culinary. And I was quite curious in terms of tourism, whether she had any data in terms of the trend among the students doing research in the field of tourism. I'm not sure whether you have.
Okay, I can actually answer that question, Dr. Vic. In the library, hospitality and tourism actually ends up under business, and there's a different librarian liaison for that area. Yeah, I've only been assigned to culinary studies, culinary and tourism studies, but they separated it and it fell under business, and there was another librarian that was assigned for that. That's why that's not captured in my statistics.
Okay, but then I think we are able, I'm sure through the library, we are able to get those data to actually understand what are the research.
Yes, you can. I just didn't focus on it in my assessment, because I focused on my area.
Okay, all right. So
if I may, please.
yes.
Ruth Gardner here. I think for the most part, hospitality and tourism and culinary has been a more practical, it's been more practical here at the college. And so while there is more research that ought to be done, I think for the most part, because having, sort of more or less come through the ranks of a Bahamas Hotel Training College, which was specifically for that training, and then going into the College of the Bahamas, which was basically teaching, more teaching than research. So I'm thinking then that most of the focus has always been on the practical aspects of the hospitality industry and tourism industry and culinary as well. And so I think there may be a further move that we would like to see it move to the next level. But again, we have to put those things in place that would need to be there in order for those things to occur at the level at which we would want. You know, hospitality transcends a lot of disciplines. I always start to teach, you know, with whenever I have to do a hospitality course, and I always ask my students, you know, where was Christ born? And most of them would say, well, yeah, he was born in Bethlehem. And I was like, yeah, Bethlehem, where about? And they would say, yes, in a manger. And I would ask, why was he born in the manger? And they would say, because there was no room in the inn. And I say, exactly. So you see, it has a historical relevance to it. It's been around for quite some time, and it transcends across a lot of disciplines as it's moved along and evolved. So again, I think we need to get to the research point level, and hopefully we'll get there someday.
Yep, I totally agree with Dr. Gardiner. I think looking at our history currently and where we are and moving forward with the rolling out of more graduate program, especially the higher degree by research and the doctoral program, you will see a change that is happening in the kind of research that is going to take place. So I will see that, I think within the next few years, you will see a sudden surge in the kind of research, that is relevant to the country, especially when you talk about tourism, specific research, which I mentioned to you in the presentation today.
Do we have more questions?
I don't have a question, but I actually would like to make a comment.
Please.
Even though Dr. Gardner mentioned that hospitality, culinary, and tourism is more practical or action-based in terms of research, they have been doing a lot of research. She's been doing a lot of research related to cruise ship tourists that I found quite interesting, and it's made its rounds. There have been a lot of discussions about how can the cruise ship tourists be more tapped into in terms of revenue. So I would agree with you that while some things are practical, there is some research value in the work that's being done. And so I would like to say congratulations to you. I've just now let it out that you've had research that has been the center of debate.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yes, Dr. Gardner is a rising star. Well, if there are no more comments or questions, I would remind everyone that this session has been recorded and it will be posted on the university YouTube channel. And that if you need some great ideas for topics for research, do go back and review the slides from Dean Moxey. She gave several pages of great research topics, and also the slides from Dean Nair, particularly the list of 10 issues for 22 and beyond, because they would feed you great ideas to pursue for research in the Bahamian context relating to tourism, relating to hospitality, relating to business. And Dr. Pinder Darling demonstrated that the university library does have resources to meet your research needs. And if we do not have them at hand, we can get them for you. And that's our role. So thank you all. Dr. Nair, did you want to say anything more?
No, thank you. Thank you everyone for the session today. Please continue to attend these sessions. As I've told you in the previous session, for this semester, our focus was to introduce research in the various areas, the various disciplines and fields. And you can see from the discussion, there is a lot of mixed discipline, transdisciplinary research that is taking place, and that is the way forward. Yes, we have to focus as well in our own discipline, but at the same time, cutting across the disciplines sometimes allow us to solve a bigger issue that we have. So, so please feel free. I hope you have benefited from the session. The last session we had on creative works and arts, and then we're going to be having more sessions coming soon on the sciences, on the nursing side, and please do come for the sessions, and we will send out the recordings of the sessions to all of you. And if you have missed out any of the previous session, do not hesitate to contact us. We have all the recordings over the last few semesters.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
All right.
all.
All right.
And have
Bye-bye.
a great day and stay safe.
Thank
Yep,
you for being
bye-bye.
a good moderator, Miss Virginia.
That's right.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Virginia.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Moxey and Dr. Darling.
Thank you
Darling.
all.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.